All right, thank you guys. Welcome to our MLB video here today for Tuesday, April 27th. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. And despite coming off a marginal day on my Patreon website yesterday, we still improved to 4-0 in our last 4 extra daily pick tier package plays on that Patreon page. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, peace. Oh, there's mad people up in here. Amazing. Are there more coming in? Yeah. Wow, big party. What up? What's good? Just recording YouTube videos. Did you restart that all over again? Nah, I don't have to restart. I could go, what was I talking about? Patreon. I improved to 4-0 in my last 4 extra daily pick tier package plays on my Patreon page. And if you want to access today's extra daily pick, it's only going to cost you just $2.99. We're also 3-0 with a push in our last 4 crowd pleaser teasers on that Patreon site as well. We currently have over 1,405 members who are signed up and active on that page. And if you want to see which one of these YouTube picks I'm actually betting on personally, the link for that site is in the description section below. That's patreon.com/BrockPage. And that, guys, we got ourselves a massive slate of Major League Baseball action here today. Why is my top button so stiff there? All right. Yeah, let's loosen up a little bit. Okay, let's dive into it. Twins versus the Indians, 6:10 Eastern first pitch. The Minnesota Twins are minus $1.15 on the road and totals 8.5 juice to the under. Kenta Maeda for the Twins, Aaron Savali for Cleveland. Now, Savali's been really good thus far on the year. He's 3-0 with a 2.42 ERA and a .88 whip. The righties also struck out 22 batters. Cleveland's on a 2-game winning streak, and they've also got themselves a winning record on their home field. This Cleveland pitching staff allows just 3.4 runs per contest at Progressive Field. They're taking on a Minnesota club who's won just 4 of 11 as the away team this year. The Twins have also really struggled as of late as well. They're currently on a 3-game losing streak, and they dropped 12 out of their last 14. Now, Kenta Maeda comes into today's start with a 6.11 ERA and a 1.87 whip. This Minnesota pitching staff is also in the bottom 10 in runs allowed on the road. Now, total-wise, Minnesota's 7-4 to the over on the road. Cleveland saw 4 out of their last 7 get over the total of 8.5 runs themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Cleveland Indians plus $1 and the over 8.5. Next ball game, Royals Pirates, 6:35 Eastern start time. The Pittsburgh Pirates are minus $1.15, total 7.5. Tyler Anderson for Pittsburgh, Jake Junis for Kansas City. Junis is 1-0 with a 3.71 ERA and a 1.18 whip. Junis has also fanned 18 batters in just 17 innings pitched. The Royals have been red hot lately. They're in the middle of a 5-game winning streak, 7-2 straight up in their last 9. They've also been outstanding on the road. They're winning 75% of their road games, and they currently lead the majors in runs allowed when traveling. This Royals pitching staff gives up just 2.2 runs per contest as the away team. They're also holding their opponents to just 6 hits a game in that same category. Kansas City's taken on a Pittsburgh squad who's struggled to put runners across the plate this season. The Pirates are in the bottom 10 in the league in scoring on average per contest, as they're averaging less than 3.92 runs a game. Now, the Pirates hitters are also striking out 9.6 times per game at PNC Park. And when it comes to the total in this one, Pittsburgh's 13-9 to the under for the entire season. Kansas City's gone a perfect 8-0 to the under as the road team. The Royals have also seen over 71% of their ball games for the entire season stay under the line as well. I'm going to lean toward the Kansas City Royals plus $1 and the under 7.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Yankees versus the Orioles, 7:05 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Yankees are minus 175, totals 9.5. Corey Kluber for the Bombers, Bruce Zimmerman for Baltimore. Despite a little bit of a rocky start for Zimmerman, he still recorded 15 strikeouts in just over 21 innings pitched. The Orioles are currently on a 2-game winning streak, and that includes a 4-2 victory over the Yankees just yesterday. And believe it or not, the Orioles are currently in the top 10 in the bigs in fewest runs allowed per contest. They're taking on a struggling Yankee organization who's currently 4 games below 500, and they're still in last place in the AL East. Corey Kluber's 0-2 on the year with a 5.40 ERA and a 1.93 whip. Kluber's also struggled with command this season. He's walked 11 batters in just 15 innings of work. Now, in addition to their defensive woes, for some reason, the Yankees simply have not been hitting the ball. They're dead last in the league in hits on average per contest, and they're also scoring just 3.5 runs a game. Now, total-wise, New York 6-5 to the under when traveling, 14-8 to the under for the entire year. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, we're looking at an Orioles team who's seeing nearly 60% of their contests stay under the total themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Baltimore Orioles plus 1.5 and the under 9.5 runs. Next ball game, Nationals, Blue Jays, 7:07 Eastern first pitch. The Washington Nationals are minus $1.20, numbers 8.5 flat. Max Scherzer for the Nats, Trent Thornton for Toronto. And as good as Thornton's looked this year, the Blue Jays have still lost 5 out of their last 8 ball games. Now, Toronto's currently 1 game below 500 on the season, and their hitters are striking out more than 9.8 times a game at home. Now, they're taking on a Washington National crew who's won 3 out of their last 5 themselves. And, well, they have Mad Max Scherzer on the bump here today. That normally means good news. Scherzer comes into today's contest with a 1.80 ERA and a .72 whip. He struck out 33 batters in just 25 innings pitched. Now, total-wise, 8 out of Washington's last 9 ball games all stayed under the total of 8.5 runs. The Nats are officially 7-2 to the under as the road team. Meanwhile, Toronto's currently 71% to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Washington Nationals minus $1.20 and the under 8.5. All right, next contest. It is going to be A's versus the Rays, 7:10 East. The Oakland A's are minus $1.15, numbers 8.5. Frankie Montas for Oakland, Michael Wacha for Tampa. Now, Wacha comes into today's start with a 4.35 ERA and 8 walks. The Rays have also lost 4 out of their last 5 ball games, and they really struggle at Tropicana Field this year. They're winning just 36% of their contests on their home field. Now, Tampa Bay strikes out more than any other organization at home. They're averaging over 10.8 strikeouts a game on their home field. Kind of a consistent trend as they led the league in that particular stat last year as well. Now, the Rays are also averaging just 3.2 runs a game at the Trop. They're taking on an Oakland club who's got Frankie Montas on the mound here today. And although his ERA and whip aren't all that impressive right now, Montas is still 2-1 thus far in the season with 20 strikeouts and just over 18 innings pitched. The A's are 14-1 straight up in their last 15 ball games, 778 win percentage as the away team as well. Oakland's currently 2 games ahead of Seattle for first place in the AL West. Oakland's also in the top 10 in road scoring. Now, Matt Olson's hit 6 home runs and batted in 17 for the Athletics. Mark Canha also hit 3 homers and scored 23 times already. And when it comes to the scoring in this one, 7 out of Oakland's last 10 ball games stayed under the total of 8.5 runs. The A's are officially 5-4 to the under when they bat first. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, the Rays are 6-5 to the under this season at the Trop. I'm going to lean toward the Oakland A's minus 115 and the under 8.5. All right, next contest, it is going to be Red Sox versus the Mets, 7:10 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Mets are minus $1.50, totals 8.5. David Peterson for New York, Garrett Richards for the Bo Sox. And despite some significant command issues for Richards, we're still looking at a Boston team who's been almost unbeatable on the road thus far. The Sox are currently 6-1 straight up as the road team. They cashed in on the run line in all 7 of those road games. The Red Sox are currently leading the league in road scoring. They're also first in hits per contest as well. J.D. Martinez hit 7 home runs and batted in 21 already. The outfielder currently has 17 extra base hits, along with a 1.199 OPS. Meanwhile, Xander Bogaerts is batting .366 with 3 homers and a dozen RBI. Boston scores nearly 7 runs a game when they travel. They're taking on a Mets club who dropped 5 out of their last 8. They struggle to put runners across the plate. New York currently averages just 3.2 runs a game, and they've cashed in on the run line in just 29% of their ball games overall for the season. Now, David Peterson, he comes into today's start with a 1-2 record and a .675 ERA. When it comes to the total in this one, New York's 7-1 to the under at Citi Field and almost 60% to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Boston Red Sox plus 1.5 and the under 8.5 runs. Next matchup, Cubs, Braves, 7:20 Eastern start time. The Atlanta Braves are minus 160, totals 9. Ian Anderson for Atlanta, Trevor Williams for Chicago. Now, Williams has walked 8 batters already and comes into today's start with a 1.50 whip. The Cubbies are currently on a 3-game losing streak, 2-5 straight up in their 7 road games. Now, their pitching staff is in the bottom 3 in road walks allowed. They're also in the bottom 3 in runs allowed away from home as well. And in addition to struggling defensively, we're looking at a Cubbies team who scores only 2.8 runs a game when they travel. Now, they're taking on a Braves club who won 3 out of their last 5. And that includes an 8-7 victory last night over this very Chicago team. Ian Anderson's got 23 strikeouts in just 22 innings of work. He's currently 1-0 with a .327 ERA. But it's not just all pitching for Atlanta. They're in the top 10 in scoring on average per contest, top 5 in offensive walks at the plate. Ronald Acuña's hit 7 home runs and knocked in 16. The outfielder has been walked a dozen times, and he currently has an OPS of 1.224. Meanwhile, Freddie Freeman's hit it out of the park 6 times this year himself. 13 RBI and 17 free passes already for Freeman. Now, when it comes to the number in this one, the Braves are 10-1 to the over at Truist Park, 64% to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, the Cubbies are 4-3 to the over as the away team themselves. I'm going to lean toward the Atlanta Braves minus 160 and the over 9. Next matchup, it is going to be Marlins versus the Brewers, 7:40 East. The Milwaukee Brewers are minus 160, totals 8, juice to the over. Adrian Hauser for Milwaukee, Daniel Castano for Miami. Now, Castano's got a .360 ERA and a 1.20 whip. The Marlins have won 2 out of their last 3, and that includes an 8-0 drubbing of Milwaukee yesterday. Miami's been real good cashing in on the run line when they travel. They're 9-2 against the run line in their 11 road games. Miami's also in the top 10 in road scoring. Jazz Chisholm has 4 homers and 37 total bases. Meanwhile, Corey Dickerson's hitting .324 with 5 doubles and 34 total bases himself. They're taking on a Milwaukee club who's got a losing home record thus far. The Brewers are winning just 40% of their contests at Miller Park. Milwaukee also leads the majors in strikeouts at the plate. Their hitters are getting punched out 10.9 times a game. Now, Adrian Hauser, he's shown significant command problems. He's walked 9 batters and comes into today's contest with a 1.53 whip. Now, Hauser is just 1-2 thus far in the year. And when it comes to the total in this one, the Brewers are 60% to the over at Miller Park. Meanwhile, the Marlins saw 64% of their road games get over the line themselves. So with that in mind, I'm going to lean toward the Miami Marlins plus 1.5 and the over 8 runs. What up?
What up, man? You got this.
You guys want to say hello to YouTube?
No.
No? Okay. Some party today. You know what? There were so many games that I had to break down for Major League Baseball today. Every team playing, I believe. 15 games. Every team's playing. And it took me late into the afternoon. And unfortunately, I guess, recording in the middle of a big party at the house. We've got about 10 kids coming in and out of the house. It's a great time. A lot of fun. But anyway, guys, let's go ahead and dive into our next matchup. It is going to be Phillies Cards, 7:45 Eastern first pitch. The St. Louis Cardinals are -110 at home. Totals 8.5. Carlos Martinez for the Cards. Zach Eflin for the Phillies. Eflin's 1-0 with a 2.77 ERA and a 1.00 whip. The righty's had terrific command thus far in the season. He's walked only 2 batters in 26 innings pitched. The Phillies have won 3 out of their last 5 ball games. They're taking on a Cardinals club who's playing just .500 baseball at home. And they rank in the bottom 10 in hits per contest at the plate. Carlos Martinez is also 0-4 thus far in the season with a 6.00 ERA. Now, total-wise, the Cardinals are 60% to the under at Busch Stadium, 12-10 to the under for the whole year. I'm going to lean toward the Philadelphia Phillies -110 in the under 8.5. Next ball game, it is going to be Angels-Rangers, 8:05 Eastern start time. The LA Angels are -150, numbers 9 juiced to the over. Jose Quintana for Los Angeles, Mike Foltynewicz for Texas. Now, Folty's 0-3 on the year with a 5.32 ERA. You might as well call it a career with this guy. Somebody just cut him already. But anyway, the Rangers are currently on a 4-game losing streak, and they also dropped 7 out of their last 10. Now, Texas is 5 games below .500 right now, and they're also winning just 30% of their home games. Now, one of the Rangers' big problems is their ability to score, or lack thereof. Texas is dead last in scoring at home. They're also dead last in home hits. They're taking on an Angel club who won their last 2 straight, and they rank in the top 3 in the league in hits. Mike Trout's batting .426 with 6 homers and a 1.359 OPS. Meanwhile, Shohei Ohtani's batting .341 with 7 homers and 18 RBI. Ohtani's got himself an OPS of 1.016. Now, keep an eye on him. I think he has a finger injury. I think he's going to play through it. But anyway, this Angel lineup is in the top 10 in the entire league in scoring on average per contest. Now, total-wise, 7 out of the Angels' last 11 road games got over the number, 13-8 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Texas saw 5 out of their last 7 outings get over the total of 9 runs themselves. I'm going to lean toward the LA Angels -150 and the over 9 runs. Goodness, this is a lot of games. A full slate. Next matchup, Mariners-Astros, 8:10 Eastern first pitch. The Houston Astros are -200. Totals 8.5. Christian Javier for Houston, Marco Gonzalez for Seattle. Gonzalez is just 1-2 on the season with a 6.04 ERA and a 1.34 whip. The Mariners are currently on a 2-game losing streak and dropped 4 out of their last 6. This Mariner pitching staff is dead last in the bigs in strikeouts on the road. They're fanning less than 7.4 batters a game in that particular category. They're taking on a Houston club who won 4 out of their last 5 ball games themselves. Now, these Astros hitters lead the league in fewest strikeouts at the plate, and they're also in the top 3 in hits. Yuli Gurriel, he's hit 4 home runs and batted in 16. The first baseman has also been walked 16 times, and he has an OPS of 1.033. Meanwhile, Michael Brantley is batting .342 with 13 extra base hits. Houston's in the top 5 in the league in scoring on average per contest, and actually, they might not need it today because Christian Javier, he's 2-0 on the season with a 1.32 ERA and a .88 whip. The righties also struck out 20 batters in just over 13 innings pitched. Total-wise, Houston's 6-5 to the over at Minute Maid Park, 13-9 to the over for the entire season. Meanwhile, Seattle's gone 7-5 to the over when they bat first, 13-10 to the over in all of their games. I'm going to lean toward the Houston Astros -1.5 and the over 8.5 runs. Next matchup, Tigers, White Sox, 8:10 p.m. East. The Chicago White Sox are -255, numbers 8. Lucas Giolito for Chicago, Jose Urena for Detroit. Now Urena's 0-3 with a 4.57 ERA and a 1.43 WHIP. The righties walked a dozen batters already in just over 21 innings of work. Detroit's right in the middle of a 5-game losing streak, 1-10 straight up in their last 11. Detroit's winning just 30% of their road games. They find themselves 8 games back of first place in the AL Central already. They're taking on a Chicago club who's won 6 of 9 on their home field. They find themselves in the middle of a 4-game winning streak. Lucas Giolito struck out 26 batters in under 19 innings pitched. The White Sox are also in the top 5 in the majors in scoring. Yermin Mercedes, he can be thanked for most of that. He's batting .414 with 15 ribbies and a 1.118 OPS. Meanwhile, Tim Anderson is batting .333 with 3 homers and 28 total bases. And, of course, that's after missing about half the season, by the way, for Anderson. Now, total-wise, Chicago's 6-3 to the under at guaranteed rate field. Detroit's 60% to the under when they travel. The Tigers are also 16-7 to the under for the entire season. I'm going to lean toward the Chicago White Sox -1.5 and the under 8 runs. And with that, we are getting into our later slate. Thank goodness. Next matchup, Padres, Dbacks, 7:40 p.m. East. The San Diego Padres are -150. Total's 9 juice to the over. Chris Paddock for the Pods, Merrill Kelly for Arizona. Despite a rough start to the year for Kelly, the Arizona Diamondbacks have been playing some really good baseball recently. They're 6-1 straight up in their last 7 ball games. They're also leading the league in home offensive walks at the plate. They currently rank in the top 3 in the league in home scoring as well. Eduardo Escobar, he's hit 7 home runs and knocked in 14. Escobar's got 45 total bases and crossed the plate 15 times. Meanwhile, Pavin Smith is batting .288 with 32 total bases and 8 extra base hits. Arizona's in the top 10 in the majors in hits per contest. They're taking on a Padres club who lost 6 out of their last 10, and they really struggle to move the runners. San Diego is currently in the bottom 10 in scoring on average per contest. Meanwhile, starting pitcher Chris Paddock, he's just 1-2 on this season with a 5.50 ERA and a 1.44 WHIP. Now, total-wise, the Padres are 7-4 to the over when they travel. Arizona's 4-1 to the over in their last 5 at Chase Field. I'm going to lean toward the Arizona Diamondbacks +1.5 and the over 9 runs. All right, getting down to our last 2 games. Couldn't come sooner. Anyway, next game, Rockies, Giants, 9:45 Eastern start time. San Francisco Giants are -170, totals 8 flat. Aaron Sanchez for the Giants, Chichi Gonzalez for Colorado. Gonzalez has walked 7 batters and struck out just 8. He comes into today's start with a 1.47 WHIP. And in addition to being 6 games below .500 right now, the Rockies remain winless on the road in 7 tries. Colorado's dead last in road scoring, dead last in road hits. Their pitching staff also gives up more walks than any other team on the road. They're taking on a dangerous Giants team who's 7-2 straight up in their last 9 ball games. San Francisco is also winning 82% of their contests at home, and they lead the majors in fewest runs allowed per contest. Aaron Sanchez comes into today's start with a 1.83 ERA and a 1.02 WHIP. This Giant pitching staff allows less than 5.4 hits per contest on their home field. And when it comes to the total on this one, 8 out of San Fran's 11 home games stayed under the number. They're officially 65% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Colorado saw 5 out of their last 7 road games stay under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward the San Francisco Giants -1.5 and the under 8 runs. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for the show. It is going to be Reds versus the Dodgers, 10:10 Eastern first pitch. The LA Dodgers are -250, number 7.5 flat. Walker Buehler for the Dodgers, Jeff Hoffman for Cincinnati. Now, Hoffman's 2-1 on this season with a 2.66 ERA. Now, the Reds shocked the gambling world last night with a 5-3 victory over this very Dodger team. The Reds currently lead the majors in scoring, top 5 in hits. Jesse Winker is batting .382 with 5 homers and 13 batted in. The outfielder currently has an OPS of 1.124. Meanwhile, Nick Castellanos has hit 7 homers thus far in the year himself, 15 RBI and 54 total bases for Nick. Castellanos also has an OPS of 1.022. They're taking on a Dodger club who really hasn't played all that well recently. LA's currently on a 2-game losing streak, and they also dropped 6 out of their last 8. Now, this Dodger lineup is in the bottom 10 in strikeouts at the plate. Meanwhile, the Dodger pitching staff, as good as they are, they do rank in the bottom 10 in hits allowed at home. Now, total-wise, LA's 13-10 of the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, Cincinnati saw 7 out of their last 10 head-to-head meetings with Los Angeles stay under the number as well. I'm going to lean toward the Cincinnati Reds plus 1.5 and the under 7.5 runs. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into our quick pick recap, powered to you by my Patreon website. I like Cleveland plus $1 over 8.5, Kansas City plus $1 under 7.5, Baltimore plus 1.5 under 9.5, Washington minus 120 under 8.5. Oakland minus 115 under 8.5. Boston plus 1.5 under 8.5 runs. Atlanta minus 160 over 9 runs. Miami plus 1.5 over 8. Philadelphia minus 110 under 8.5. LA Angels minus 150 over 9 runs. Houston minus 1.5 over 8.5 runs. Chicago White Sox minus 1.5 under 8. Arizona plus 1.5 over 9 runs. San Francisco Giants minus 1.5 under 8. And before I give you my next and final free pick for the video, one final reminder that we are 4-0 in our last 4 extra daily pick tier package plays on my Patreon website. We're also 3-0 with a push in our last 4 crowd pleaser teasers on that Patreon page as well. I'm going to lean toward the Cincinnati Reds plus 1.5 and the under 7.5 runs. And with that, guys, that's going to do it for me. Don't forget to check me out on Patreon. If you guys decide to get a package here today, just keep in mind Patreon's going to bill you the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. With that said, happy Tuesday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at patreon.com/BrockPage.